So I wanted to first start out by introducing myself and then allowing my panelists to introduce themselves. So as I've already been introduced just a little bit, I am Misty Kane, Managing Director for Techstars. I have been in the investment space for about 6 or 7 years now. I'm a recovering digital marketing strategist, and getting into the investment space and learning more about life science, bioscience, all of the startups that are working on some of the most incredible innovations has been one of the most exciting things about my experience with investing. I'm also excited to introduce these panelists today who will be giving us a deep dive look into what does it actually take to get investment and to progress in a meaningful way in this industry. So I will let each of you give a short introduction about who you are and what you bring to the table.
Thank you very much. Jack Florio. Background is very bifurcated. I have 2 careers. My first career was 28 years with Eli Lilly and Company in 15 different jobs over those 28 years of increasing responsibility. 2001, I took early retirement, came out to the West Coast, and ever since then I've been heavily involved in the early stage biotech space. An active investor with a group called Tech Coast Angels. We're now called New Fund, and we are an active investor in life sciences. At the other end of the spectrum, I'm an investment banker, and I work with companies that are raising capital, usually that next round of capital, that Series A capital. And in between, I do some advisory board work and some consulting work. So that's my background.
Hi, I'm Satoshi Konagai, investment lead at Selective Venture Management, visiting from the Bay Area. So my background is a science, but transition to the corporate venture capital. And we are investing in cell and gene therapy companies, biotech companies, in addition to some other areas like oncology or some ophthalmology companies. And so our parent company, Astellas Pharma, also has invested in the cell and gene therapy areas with the clinical pipeline currently in the phase 1-2 stage. And also we are more kind of interested in the novel technologies in these areas for investment and partnering too.
Hi everybody, my name is Lee Villegas. Sorry, a little bit out of breath here. There's a little rush hour coming in, so I had to rush in here this morning. My name is Lee Villegas. I'm the Vice President and Managing Partner of Aquilius and Aquilius Ventures. We are an innovation hub and a venture firm, and we focus on early stage companies that are in life sciences, med tech, and sustainability.
Thank you so much. Actually, Leah was just out writing term sheets. That's why she's so out of breath, just signing those checks. You don't have to lie, it's fine. Who here is actually building in the life science and bioscience industry? Like you are building something? Oh, so all of you, perfect. And then who here is doing something else, either working for or perhaps even an investor in life science and bioscience? Okay, wonderful. If you are building, the people who just raised their hand, go and attack them. They're writing checks. The questions that I want to make sure that we answer today and that our panelists are well primed to answer are around what does it take to get investment when you are building in a space like life science and bioscience. So Jack, I would love to hear from you first. If you could explain to the audience, as an investment banker, but also as an angel investor, what do you look for, or what does it take for you to be interested enough and to see and to have enough conviction to invest in a company?
I think they're really different as an angel investor or as an investment banker. I mean, as an angel investor, they tend to be earlier stage companies. We're looking for a reasonably solid business plan in terms of where they want to go with the technologies, what the milestones look like, how much capital they're trying to raise, are they raising enough to get to the next milestone? Have they taken a long view of where they're headed with the company? Are they looking beyond just that next milestone? But how well structured is the thought process for the company? As an angel investor, we're also looking to say, if we put money into a company, is our round of money and the expertise and support we provide companies, because we're not passive investors, will that get them to that milestone and then the next round of capital? And then ideally, we're looking for maybe one more round of capital after that, but not much more than that. So the company has to have an exit in sight within 2 rounds of capital. Otherwise, it really does not turn out to be a viable opportunity for an investment banker, for an angel investor. I can answer the investment banker question, and that's a little bit different because now we're talking about companies that have gone beyond angels, they've gone beyond friends and family. Now they're looking to raise money to a key milestone. And now they start to ask questions like, who's going to pay for this? What does the business model look like? Much more commercially oriented questions in that case. Also looking at the same kinds of questions. Are they raising enough money to get to the milestone? Is that milestone truly a value inflection milestone? Have they had discussions with strategic people like Satoshi here at Astellas? Are there pharmaceutical companies interested in what they're buying? And then are they also interested in bringing the right investors to the table? Because at that point in time, you need to be bringing investors to the table that understand the science, that understand the business, and are willing to stay with you for the long term.
Thank you so much for that answer. One of the things that you said that I think is extremely important for us to remember, as well as to get a little bit more detail about, and Leigh, I'm going to pass that question over to you, is if you're building in something, for example, I'm the managing director of Techstars. We deal with people who are building tech and AI. You can spin up something tomorrow. It's not as easy in this industry. So Leigh, what sorts of not only operational, but also just additional proof is needed for you to feel comfortable writing a check?
Yeah, I would say, so we, like I mentioned, we invest in early stage companies, but in therapeutics and medical devices as well. So what we really look for is really those that are past the, they can be at the prototype level, but really at that proof of concept stage.
And when you talk about being past the prototype level and the proof of concept stage, like what's the scientific rigor that you're looking for? And what happens if someone needs funding just to get to the scientific rigor part?
That, we used to rely heavily on government funding, right, from the NIH, SBIR's phase 1 and phase 2s. And so that's kind of what we look for in the companies as well, is if they have been funded through SBIRs, then that would provide a lot more heft to the deal.
Understood. So what you're saying is someone else, usually a grant, NIH, SBIR, is coming in, providing that initial capital to get them to a stage that says, this is actually something, you're about to bring value. And then once you see that trigger, that's enough for you to take an interest to consider writing a check?
Exactly. Yeah, usually they've gone through their initial friends and family round, grant funding, or a lot of times they're also self-funded.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And then similar question to you, but what are strategics looking for when it comes to wanting to invest in one of these, in a company in this industry?
Yeah, we do deep due diligence from scientific viewpoint to technology, manufacturing, and also the business plan, including preclinical, clinical development plans, and regulatory paths. But also, as a strategic investor, it is also important for us to see the strategic alignment with our parent company in terms of the pipeline gap filler or some technological complemental platform, which we don't have the internal capability for that, and which also is important for us to deliver actual commercial product in the future. So those kind of strategic alignment and also the buy-in from the internal stakeholders are additional kind of viewpoints for us for our investments.
So I work really, really well when I have an example to go off of, kind of like if you don't see it, you can't be it. Can you give one, maybe two examples of what that alignment would look like for your organization specifically?
Yeah, for example, we have internal capabilities in the pipeline in iPSC-derived cell line therapy products. But still, it's the same for everyone in the industry. Manufacturing is the key challenges. And we are investing in the companies with the technology platform which enables iPSC to differentiate to the actual cell therapy product more efficiently, with more quality and scalability. And those are kind of one of the examples we have invested to date.
Understood. I want to bring it back to you, Jack. I know that I get a lot of companies who come to me with same or similar ideas, and they're working on solving the same or similar problem. When you are looking at a breadth of potential investments, and they happen to fall around the same problem and a similar solution, what's going to make an investment rise to the top?
First of all, I know we were talking about pharmaceuticals, cell therapy, and devices, and they're all very, very different. So the discussions around those really can be very, very different. In terms of making it rise to the top, I mean, one thing is, does the company understand the competition? Do they understand who's out there? Are they aware of who's out there? And do they have a realistic view of what advantage they have over that competition? I think becomes extremely important. Going back to what you talked about in terms of have they raised some additional capital from the government. I mean, if a company comes to us and they have investors in it that may be from NIH or maybe from a strategic that obviously put some value into the company because they think the technology has some value. You're looking for things that differentiate that company is the bottom line. And you're right, it's very hard at times to separate one technology from another when there's a lot of folks playing in the same space. But that kind of validation is very valuable. Again, understanding the competition and being able to articulate in a realistic fashion why your technology is better. I mean, we see all the companies come to us and they're going to be best in class, first in class, and they're all not going to be best in class, first in class. So I think it's more about can they articulate the differences in the value of their technology relative to the competition.
I would give the same request in terms of an example. So when we talk about moats, unfair advantages, things that differentiate, can you give an example of something that maybe it's something you've seen recently or just a random example, like what's differentiating?
I'll give you an actual example of a company that we put capital in at New Fund in terms of the first round of investment. And now we're out raising capital for a second round of investment. I'm working with them as an investment banker. And they came to us with an wireless ear-based vagal nerve stimulator. And if you go into the literature, there are a ton of companies out there with vagal stimulators. And what we learned in the process is, first of all, many of these aren't getting to the vagus nerve. And he was able to demonstrate, with his understanding of the architecture of the ear and the nerves, that his electrodes are mounted exactly where the vagus nerve comes to the surface, and he's using wet electrodes, so he's getting contact. So all these other devices that purport to be getting vagal nerve stimulation probably aren't getting vagal nerve stimulation. So that was one thing. He was able to really articulate the differences in his technology versus the others. I think the second was, he's in the university, so he was able to do some clinical work. He came to us with a 60-patient clinical study in the ICU that he ended at 27 patients because he got statistical validity. So he was able to show health economics benefit in 27 patients that was publishable. So he had published data, and he's very avid about continuing to publish data from all the studies he's doing. So, I mean, I think the published data created value, and then the ability to articulate the specific differences of his technology versus the competition.
Thank you so much. The one thing that we talk to founders about when we're looking to invest in them is, do you have something that if I were to ask a room full of people, very few people would be able to raise their hand and say the same thing. So if you have the same or similar technology, but one question is posed where you're one of maybe 2 or 3 people that can say, yes, our technology does this, or yes, we have this expertise, or yes, we have this distribution, and not a lot of others, then I know for me as an investor, that shows that you're on the right track to be one of the market leaders. And it sounds like, Jack, you have a similar standard as well.
In this case, yes.
Perfect. Leah, to you, I would like to ask about your general thoughts on investing today. So it is the year of our Lord, 2026. It is no longer 2021 where you get funding just for having a pulse. What does it look like right now to be a builder in the pharmaceutical, the life science, the bioscience industry and getting serious investment from investors?
Well, it's been tough, right? The past few years, 2024, even back to 2023, up to 2025. Going into 2026, though, things seem to be looking better in a sense that, we're through the Innovation Hub, we're actually seeing more and more companies come through that are getting funded from investors, even at the earlier stages. And so in this environment now, especially since there has been a lot of things going on with the NIH grant funding being cut, SBIR is no longer being available for the meantime, it's still being tough. But I think, that's kind of this is a time for private capital to now start coming in at even earlier stages. Right, so historically, the safer bets were Series A and beyond, especially for therapeutic companies. But I think more and more investors are starting to see that it is becoming more important to invest at the earlier stages.
Wonderful. And then Satoshi, to you, I would like to ask in regards to what you're excited about seeing in terms of the future. So one of the great things about being an incredible founder is you don't build for today, you build for a year from now, 2 years from now. What technologies, what innovations, and then what solutions to what problems are you excited about seeing?
Yep. Actually, adding on to the differentiation, we are looking at or investing in companies with the first-in-class approach or best-in-class approach, not me too or not me better. And so in terms of my responsibility right now, I'm focused on the oncology investment and management of portfolio companies. So I'm personally looking seriously at the technologies or biologies or anything that will drastically change the clinical outcome of patients. And cell therapy or gene therapy is just a kind of discussion of the modality. And we also have the competition in other modalities like small molecules and biologics with technological advancements. And I'm seriously looking at those every aspect of technological innovations and breakthroughs in these areas and actively considering to invest in new companies in these areas. So I cannot say exactly what we'd like to see, but at least we'd like to see the innovativeness of the technology or products.
Thank you. Here is one thing that I love about being a moderator is I get to ask questions that I find personally interesting. So it's very selfish of me, I know, but I would also like to extend that selfishness to the audience and allow you to ask some questions of these panelists as well. We have about 10 minutes or so. I don't know if we have a mic that we can pass around, but I know that if you have a really strong voice and you yell, everyone will be able to hear, or I'm happy to repeat your question. Does anyone have anything that we already have a taker. Look at you. Yes. Perfect.
With 2 or 3 funding rounds. But
oh, look at that. Not all heroes wear capes. Thank you.
Thank you, James. So it's about the 2 or 3 exit to the next funding round if an angel investor comes in early with a CGT therapeutic platform, let's say that. Yeah? So now Leah says, and we all know, that the grants are not there anymore. So how is that funding now from angel investors possible to get them off the ground, a therapeutic platform, but they might need more than 2 funding rounds because you start out with a lower amount. Otherwise, you inverse the whole funding strategy. So I just would like to hear a little bit of views how we can tee this up with funding strategy, maybe 3 funding rounds.
A little bit more runway since there's an obstacle with the...
Assuming that we have no grants for platforms.
Understood. Perfect.
A couple of different answers to that. I mean, one is as angel investors, we are looking for an exit. I mean, that's the bottom line of it. And so if a company's taking a long view and looking at how those rounds will unfold and what the valuations may be, get some sense of, is this going to be, with the risk the angels are taking, is this going to be a valuable investment for angels? And in some cases, it's just not. And I wish I could say something differently, but some cases, it's just not. And when it's not, I think there's a couple of things to do. One is, and that's why we invest in disease states that are more likely acquired. We invest in technologies and devices because they're more likely acquired. The other thing we'll talk about to do is go back and say, okay, are there smaller chunks of money you can raise that will be an interim milestone? So they may want to raise a larger chunk of money. How do you parse that out? Is there a smaller chunk of money you can raise that could be a value inflection milestone to let you raise a slightly larger amount of money? Also, you may have to go back and look at grants or other things to get the data done that you need. You may have to look at strategic partners. You may have to look outside the US. A lot of companies haven't thought about the fact that can they take their technology and partner with a company in Europe or partner with a company in Japan and bring in non-dilutive capital that way. So we really encourage companies to look for other ways of raising non-dilutive capital to get to the point that they would be investing in it. The other last part I'll mention is, depending on the disease state, every disease state has an advocacy group. I mean, there's the RD Foundation for blindness, the Parkinson's Foundation. So these are more philanthropic groups that will invest for philanthropic reasons. And then the last one, I think, we'll see if another one comes to mind, is family offices. Many of the family offices are there for purpose. There's a disease in the family, and they're investing in those types of situations without necessarily worrying about an exit, but more worrying about, are we adding value to the environment?
I love that. I'm going to add on, and yes, I see both of... Oh, are you pointing to him? Aren't you kind? I love that. Look, he has support getting a question answered. I do also want to say that there is the psychology of fundraising, which is what Jack is talking about, like literally the process. Can you get traction? Can you get design partners? Can you get other people who believe in you? But there is also the confirmation, the part of behavioral fundraising, which is, can you instill confidence in investors that you are going to be able to make this happen? And how creative can you be to show them that, look, not only do we have LOIs, but we have LOIs with people who say, yes, we will purchase contingent upon you passing this approval or you being able to get to this phase? Are you able to convince people? Because that also instills confidence in investors for a particular round.
Yeah, thank you. Is it working? Yeah. So Raphael Ognar, CEO and founder of Enkill Therapeutics. Actually, my thunder got stolen by the previous question, but I have a follow-up that goes beyond. We are in a global world now. What is in the mind of US investors when we face a situation where currently for early stage cell therapy, it looks like most capital is coming from outside of the US and not necessarily from the US. There's more traction from Asian investors, from Middle East investors that are willing to invest at early stage, meaning more risky, while when we discuss with a lot of US-based family offices or firms, what they say is that, well, we love your technology, this is really inspiring, but come when you get to the clinic before we give you money. And with what was said earlier, with the lack of grants coming in, there's always someone that wants to see someone else investing before they come. If we continue that game, we're going to lose leadership, and we're going to not have novelty coming to patients that in 10 years are going to suffer the lack of investment that we're putting today. How do we respond to this to maintain some form of early stage leadership in cell and gene therapy?
That's a really great question. Leah or Satoshi, do you have thoughts?
I think it's important, and I also experience similar things like other venture capitals or other investors saying they'd like to be the last one to write the check. But yeah, it's important, also important for us to be the first investor to commit in the round. And the important thing is that how you syndicate the investors, even in early stages. And to enable that, I would say, to be transparent to investors where you are and who you are talking to, and how, and also to align with those potential investors regarding the value proposition you can deliver in the end. And let's say.
It's okay.
Yeah.
You want to capture your thoughts for a moment? Maybe, Leah, do you have something to add?
Sure, yeah, I can add to that. I totally agree with you that, there's a lot of foreign investors coming in, especially from Asia. I think what we're going to start seeing, potentially even this year, is more U.S. firms actually taking in foreign investments. Because as a VC firm, that's what we do. Right? We raise funds from a number of different investors globally, and then syndicate those funds and then deploy those funds into startups. And so that's what we're seeing. We're forming partnerships with, I think it's Singapore, Korea, as well as other countries outside of Asia. Australia is another one, as well as Canada, I think. Yeah.
One thing that I do want to say after Jack is in regards to, I saw your hand go up, so I want to make sure that I honor that, is in regards to how you approach fundraising before you even get started. But Jack, what were you going to say?
I think in the very early stage companies, you need to create excitement around the science. It's not around the business as much. Everybody knows how big the diabetes market is, the GLP. You need to create the excitement around the science, and that you do with publications, that you do with the scientific advisory board, that you do by working with the early stage people at the pharmaceutical firms to see how they feel about it, they're interested. As that moves along, as you get to a later stage in the company, you've now validated the science and people are looking at the importance of the business. And so I think, again, for those very early stage companies, focus on the science and focus on getting excitement around the science and people talking about the science that you're doing as being differentiable.
Love. I think that Jack and I would be amazing at volleyball together because he just sets them up and I'm just going to knock them down. But what I would like to follow on with that is, before you even think about going out to fundraise, have you set yourself up and your company up with the right relationships? Do you have not only the street cred or the credibility, do you have enough of the proof out there of what it is that you are building, why it works, why is it exciting, who wants it, and have you developed relationships with the right type of investors? For my founders, I do this workshop called Fundraising Diagnosis Checklist. It goes through 6 levels of fundraising diagnoses. The first level is, do you even know who to talk to? Do you have a strong investor pipeline? And one of the things about having a strong investor pipeline is you know who is a first check early adopter investor. You know how to find those people who aren't going to say, so sorry, we actually need to see someone else in first. You know the investors who will take a little bit more risk, who don't mind a little less traction, but you know what their objections are in the beginning. And that research comes from either utilizing tools like our founders use metal.so, or they utilize their network. They look at who else has been funded, and then they research those particular investors. But that first stage of, do I have the relationships with my partners? Do I have the relationships in the network of investors? And then have I also set myself up to be someone that people are interested in talking to, I think is extremely important. I know that we only have a couple more minutes, so I wanted to give each of our panel,
I have a question. How do you parameterize actually the efficient use of funds as an investment firm? And how do you objectify it? Because there seems there is no criteria at all in terms of the investment and the efficiency of the investment and the reaction to that. Can you tell me anything about that?
Perfect. Does anyone want to take this one?
Yeah, we're all about capital efficiency when it comes to the innovation hub. So we couple the innovation hub with a venture firm, right? Because we see that it just makes sense, right? We're looking at early stage companies that are all needing the same thing, right? And they don't need to be spending, each company spending their money on the same things. So we provide the infrastructure, the scientific equipment, and the expertise, all for them on a shared basis.
Yeah, from the corporate venture capital viewpoint, I would say two things. One is the collaboration with our parent company's R&D team. That would be more kind of in-kind contribution or just advice to the investee portfolio companies, which will make more kind of investment efficiency. And the other thing is to have the milestone tranches for us, for investors to see clear development or progress of the company to have more investments or commitments later.
Perfect. At the end of the day, investors want a return on their investment, and it needs to be something that is greater than what they could achieve by just putting their money into the stock market or something that's not as liquid or flexible. So typically different investors, and that's a perfect question to ask a target investor as well. What sorts of milestones do you get excited about? And then also look at their portfolio and what sorts of milestones they've achieved as well. I want to make sure I give each of the panelists an opportunity for people who are going back to building on Tuesday. What is one actionable takeaway that you would like to impart?
Every investor you approach is a different investor. Understand that investor, understand what they invest in, understand the knowledge of the person you're talking to. Don't have to lecture science to a scientific person, don't have to lecture business to a business person. Approach every investor as an individual and really understand what they do, how they do it, why they do it. And to me, it's not a numbers game, it's a quality game. You're better off getting in front of and reaching out to a dozen quality of right investors than sending out 50 or 60 emails and hoping something sticks.
Awesome. Not a monolith and customization. I love that.
I just like to echo that. I mean, quality over quantity, right? It's about relationship building just as much as raising the funds, right? So get to know your investors and always provide them updates, right? Because it's a long process, right? They're not going to write you checks the day that you meet them or the day that you pitch. So it's an ongoing process, and it's important to keep them updated with the progress of your company.
Love that. So no spray and pray, customize your outreach, as well as ensuring that you are providing your investors with investor updates.
I would like to say the companies to strengthen the value proposition in terms of the differentiation and how they deliver the actual value in the future. And also, that is not limited to the science or technology, but also the actual execution of your business, including the R&D, manufacturing, and the regulatory and the commercialization in the future. We all understand cell and gene therapy is one of the toughest challenges or areas in the industry, but that is also an opportunity for everyone to fill the gap. And yeah, we like to see those kind of value proposition that fills the current gap and the challenges in the industry.
Wonderful. So lastly, make sure that you understand not a whole bunch of people can raise their hand and say the same thing, differentiation. Be really clear on your unfair advantage of your moat. Thank you so much.
A very quick parting comment. Anybody wants to reach out to me on LinkedIn? I'm part of Bullpen, I'm one of the founding members. Anybody wants to reach out to me on Bullpen, on LinkedIn, just mention we met here, or mention Bullpen. I am more than happy to get on a call and chat about this to anybody that has an interest. So please feel free to reach out.
I love that. You guys are going to make him regret that comment, aren't you? Perfect. Thank you so much. And it's just Jack Florio on LinkedIn?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Leah, do you also want to give out your personal phone number to the crowd, or?
LinkedIn, Leah Villegas.
Perfect.
Yeah, same, LinkedIn, please.
Okay, now you guys are just all playing it safe. That's very cute. I am Misty Kane on LinkedIn. All eyes, no Ys. I just want to give a round of applause to our panelists. You guys have been great.